let's talk about pointing blame or pointing a gun. Let's shift to talking about Alec Baldwin, who has recently, well, number of years ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, about a year and a bit ago, on a set, on a movie set of Rust, pulled the trigger, or a prop gun went off in his hand, and it shot and killed I'm trying to remember who she was now. She was the director of cinematography or something like that. I think she was. I can't remember. But they've just recently dropped the charges against Alec Baldwin. However, they say they might pick it up again if some of these tests go through or whatever. Because I think, the main thing that I want to get to is throughout this whole thing, Alec Baldwin has claimed he never pulled the trigger. Now, there's a whole bunch of other issues of why is there live ammunition on set? Why is there, the gun apparently, the prop gun's meant to go through like 2 or 3 different people to safety check before it. He was found with live ammunition in his gun, in his ammunition belt and stuff like that. And just, first of all, I just don't even think why there is no need with technology nowadays. There is zero need for a real gun to be on a movie set. Zero need. They could create some fake gun that has a spring in it that recoils if they want the real feel of it. And so there is absolutely no need to have a real gun on a set. No, I'm someone who's grown up around guns. My dad has a big, safe full of guns, grown up around them, been shooting my entire life. And I love going to the range with Dad or out in the farm, shooting rue and stuff like that. So I have a real respect for guns. And so there is no need to have a live gun. Now, that's not the point. I'm not on gun laws. I'm not going to call a Jim Jeffries and go viral for my gun law rants. But what I want to point at is throughout this whole thing, Alec Baldwin has just claimed he never pulled the trigger, and I'm not sure if I believe that. And they've run tests on the gun now to say no, it didn't malfunction and all that sort of stuff. But this is, Dr. Rod, is this a hard spot to be in? Because if he didn't pull the trigger, then it's like, well, I didn't pull the trigger, but he's still responsible for pointing a loaded gun at someone, and so there's still responsibility there. But just his complete lack of any responsibility in the matter, and just constantly pointing blame at malfunction. It was this, it was that. What's your take on this situation?
Well, I grew up around guns as well. One of the things I learned was if you got the gun, you're responsible for the outcome.
Yes.
And I followed this one a little bit. My understanding of the type of gun, a single action revolver, nothing could have happened if he hadn't pulled the trigger. Mm-hmm. Unless someone else pulled that trigger, he pulled the trigger. And,
is this another wrath of God? If it wasn't him, maybe God pulled the trigger?
No. It was choices someone made or didn't make. Mm-hmm. And I think it's now looking increasingly clear from the testing that was done on the revolver that the trigger was pulled.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so, I think that there's probably a fairly strong case now for taking this to the court, mm-hmm. because if he didn't pull that trigger, then who pulled the trigger? Mm-hmm. It's a pretty sad affair for him and mm-hmm. and for all of those who were impacted, especially the person who's now deceased. and her family.
Yeah.
So it's a tragedy all round. But I think we need to be very careful that we say, oh, well, no one's actually responsible for this. If you've got the gun, you're responsible on a set. And now they keep calling it a prop gun. It was a gun, right?
It was a
it
real
was
gun.
a real revolver. It was a Colt 44, wasn't it? I think that's what it was. I've used one of those before, long time ago, but I have used a Colt 44 and a Browning 38 on a fairly regular basis in the past. So apart from anything else, he had the gun. He was responsible to make sure that it actually had blanks in the chamber.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't do that because he should have been able to tell the difference between blanks and a live bullet as well. So my feeling about it, I was taught gun etiquette and gun safety as a child. I went shooting with my dad. We used to go hunting quite regularly on Saturdays, and my dad was just such a stickler for safety. If you've got the gun, you're responsible for the outcome, and that's the end of the matter.
Yes. So look, let's be honest. Like let's look at this practically. There is a man that's just shot someone and he's trying to protect himself. At what point do you as a leader, that self-preservation plus also taking responsibility, like there is a balance, because like obviously denying something this extreme, he's trying to protect himself and stuff like that. And I think I think it's sad how it's happening. But that aside, is there a place for self-preservation as a leader?
Not really. You've got to take the consequences of any decision that you make. And sometimes the consequence might be quite dire. You might end up in jail if you've broken the law. Your defence might be, I didn't really mean to.
Yeah.
But I don't know that's not generally a strong defence these days, because the courts usually expect you to do what a reasonable person would do. I think in the case of guns, a reasonable person would check that if there were supposed to be blanks in the chamber, there would be blanks in the chamber, especially if, as I understand it, the people on the set used to actually fire live ammunition for fun. So I guess they did some target practice and so on. So that would be another reason why you would take extra special care to ensure that the chamber had only blanks in it. So no, I don't think he should be trying to shove off the responsibility to anybody. I mean, there might be mitigating circumstances like, well, I'm not used to guns. I was never trained properly. That's all fine and dandy. But to say, look, I never pulled the trigger, that's probably...
Yeah,
it's really hard to believe that a gun could go of that nature, could go off without him pulling the trigger, frankly. But anyway, there you have it. I'm not a technical expert on those types of guns, and obviously, if it goes to court, they will call experts who would give expert testimony and so on. But look, when we stuff up as leaders, and most of the time, of course, our stuff up doesn't cause somebody's death, but when we stuff up with leaders, we've got to face up to it ourselves, and we've got to face up to it with those around us, other leaders, our board, and then we have to be strong enough, courageous enough to then take the consequences.
Yeah, that's really good. And because I feel like in this situation with Alec Baldwin, I've kind of followed it all along, and I lose all respect for him because of his just blanket denial of, I never pulled the trigger. I don't know. It just reeks of childhood schoolyard, like someone does something. Oh, I never did that, and I never did that. Like it just reeks of a kid just trying to get out of getting in trouble. And as a leader, looking at him as a leader, I just lose all respect. And so as a leader, we're going to lose respect if we just flat out deny something that is, quite obviously our responsibility. And so my encouragement to you is, as leaders, even if there's some dire circumstances, dire consequences to your actions, don't try to get out of it. Take responsibility. Don't point blame at something stupid. Don't avoid it, because people will lose respect for you anyway. Wouldn't it be much better to keep your integrity and just cop the consequences and then see how you can come back from it, rather than try to avoid it and lose people's respect? Hey, you just watched an excerpt from the On the Cube Leadership Podcast. If you like that, hit the like button and put a comment below. Hey, if you want to watch more videos like this, check out our channel, and while you're there, make sure you subscribe.